Hi there, welcome to the channel. Welcome back if you're a return viewer. I'm Kerry and you're watching the Christchurch Review of Books. Today, a book that's impressed me quite recently, only came out a few days ago, and I've read it already, surprise, surprise, and I read it on a Kindle. And that book is Somebody Told Me by Danny Wallace. Before I get into that, just a little update. So I've been at this new location now about a month and a few days. As you may be able to tell from this video, it gets a little noisy. I'm trying to use the lapel mic to cut down on the noise, but there are traffic noise outside, there are washing machines and all sorts of things going on. So my apologies that the sound quality on this video is not great. Just a second here while I have a sip of coffee. All good. Okay, well, Danny Wallace was a bit of a new figure to me. I have very little idea of who he was before I read his book. I came across the news of this book listening to him being interviewed on a podcast. Seems to be the new way I hear about anything these days, podcasts that lead me to a book, and then I find that other books by that author, and on it goes. Now, Wallace himself is one of those crop of polymath type creator masters of the field that seem to have come out of the UK in the last 20 or so years. Not only is he a stand-up comedian, he's a writer, he's written about a dozen other books, and he's a TV and radio presenter as well. So he does it all. And his self-publicity machine obviously worked because I went and bought the Kindle version of his book, Somebody Told Me. Now, first thing about this book is it is very much of our time, of this current moment, the zeitgeist, as you like. It kind of examines the feeling we all have, but maybe don't have time to investigate further in our day-to-day life about how things feel wrong, how weird things are happening. People are believing strange things, and this could be all getting out of control, really, if we don't keep it in check. Now, he starts this book with two distinct points that he likes to launch his narrative off. The first one was a very personal thing to him, the death of his father, and in investigating his father's communications and things, he came across the communication his father was having with an elderly Chinese man he met during a visit to China. Now, these communications started looking very strange, and Wallace starts speculating whether there's something more to this. Maybe his father was communicating with a member of the intelligence community, a spy, as you will, or something very strange is going on with this communication. Now, he speculated this because his father was an expert in the German Democratic Republic, what we used to call East Germany in the Cold War, came to its end in late 1980s with the fall of the Berlin Wall, but his father during the Cold War frequently visited there and was approached by all sorts of intelligence operatives trying to get him to turn one way or the other. And apparently, as far as Wallace knows, his father always refused. So he makes it his mission to find out more about his father's dealings with the Chinese and the intelligence business himself. Now, that's one strand of the story. It's kind of a recurring theme in the story. But the other thing he turns to then is the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, the beginnings of it, how we all, most of us in the Western world at least, were locked down. We weren't sure what was going to happen, and all sorts of rumours and strange stories was being spread. And he kind of pinpoints it as a place in time where suddenly a whole lot of people's mental switches were thrown, and from that point on, people were going to go off the deep end into what he calls rabbit holes. Of course, that's a familiar term now. People dove in head first into strange and extreme beliefs, and some of them have never come back since. Now, this book basically examines people's experiences of that, what can be behind it, and how we could possibly turn back now that things look quite seriously bad. Now, the first part of the book here investigates several personal and individuals' experiences of this type of thing. There's a husband and wife the wife has gone really off the deep end extreme and believes many sometimes contradicting extreme beliefs about conspiracies and all sorts of things. You probably know all the type of thing that I'm talking about. Moon landings fake, the earth is flat, that type of thing. There are people out there who will argue these things to their dying day because somebody told them this, and they did their research on the internet, which basically consists of watching very highly biased YouTube videos these days, and hopefully not mine. And yeah, these things are splitting up families, splitting up couples, causing divisions in local communities, because these people have put their whole life, their whole heart and soul into these extreme beliefs. Now, he also turns the spotlight on the people who should know better than do this. There's like media professionals who have like fallen out of favour, celebrities, what have you. During the COVID lockdown, they found an easy way to get attention was to start repeating some of these extreme beliefs and conspiracy theories, and soon their followings got up, and they felt emboldened, and then they just kept the cycle running. And whether they actually believe in some of this stuff, it's kind of immaterial. They have found a new niche, and they feel like this is them now, and they've got to keep their followers loyal, and so they just keep repeating more and more extreme stuff. And then of course the cynical version of this, that people who don't really believe this or only have a half-hearted belief, and have found that this is a massive business opportunity. Once you have people believing your every word, you can start fleecing them of millions of dollars. You just add pathetic adverts for pathetic products that these people will lap up by the millions and make everybody a little bit richer. Now, the other side of the story, he also investigates the people that have got away from this sort of thinking. He interviews a gentleman who believed all this type of thing for about a decade, and then he's turned around and he makes it his job to fight this type of thing online and beyond, and he's gets hate speech, hate threats of death, all sorts of things from other parts of the former conspiracy community, and so on it goes. Now, this type of thing, we've probably not new. We've all heard these stories and horror stories and all of this stuff going on, but Wallace kind of expertly crystallizes it down to a understandable way of thinking about it. And he kind of joins the dots where various things we've heard over the last few years have been scattered all over different reports and media and whatever, and he kind of connects these things up, and he follows quite a lot of experts who have been studying what's going on in at least the Western society, and they have some pretty grim news for us. Now, he interviews a lot of these experts, and they have seen this trouble coming, and it's not really, well, we blame social media, and that's like a conduit for it. It's a cause, and it can be a source of this, but people have this desire to believe these things because they feel a lack of control in their lives. And there's a lot of studies of this now, that people are feeling out of control of their lives, things are going on without them, and the other big thing he puts the spotlight on in this book is a loneliness. There is an epidemic of loneliness, at least in the Western world. Some parts of the community basically have no friends, and they find a new community in online groups or whatever who believe these extreme beliefs. It's just part of being part of a crowd, with friends. He points out, and especially middle-aged men, here we go, don't have a lot of friends anymore in our society. We've become a kind of community of loners, and when something very tempting comes by, we'll leap at it to become part of a club or something. Now, he also investigates the people that are using this type of trend in society for their own ends. The authoritarians, the autocrats, the outright fascists, they can't quite believe their luck that our society is going like this, because this is the type of tactics they've been using for hundreds of years to sow division, to turn people to their side. You can blame another community, blame another sexuality, another culture for all the society's ill, and spread all sorts of rumours about it. And now these people are using this type of thing that's happening in our society to gain ascendancy. You can see it happening a lot. Of course, I'm probably biased, not being a fan of fascism or what have you, and other people of various political stripes may think this whole book is a biased exploration from a left-wing point of view. It's not really showing the truth or whatever, so those people can go get stuff basically. But yeah, so then he has a look at the people that are fighting these things. They're the journalists who've set up basically fact-checking things, and they get a lot of hate as well, because they're trying to look into the truth behind some of the stuff that's been spread, and it's an uphill battle. And finally he basically looks into our future, where all the stuff, where it's heading, what could be our future if we don't do anything about it. And it's a pretty grim thing now with things like what's currently called artificial intelligence. Basically you can write the entire content for the internet and then react to other posts on the internet, and we're heading for a future where everybody has their own version of truth. Nothing is an objective truth anymore. My truth is not your truth. We can all just make it up as we go along to suit us, and if it feels good for us, that's the reality. And really, from personal experience, that is quite horrifying for me, because experiences in my past where reality has looked doubtful is probably the worst experiences of my life. And if we're going to live in a world where everybody has their own reality, I mean that exists slightly anyway in all life, but where we believe what we want, do what we want. I mean, what type of society is that? And Wallace points out the warning of that, and he offers some ways forward that we can stop all this type of thing. And of course then he goes back to his personal experience about the Chinese gentleman corresponding with his father, and there's a lot of a follow-up with that. Now, I really enjoyed this book. It's very, very readable. I don't very often read like a 340-page book over just 2 sessions, but this one I just devoured it. It's very well written, and there's also, Wallace being a bit of a humorist, there's a lot of humour and there's a lot of callbacks, gags and whatever. You can't resist it sometimes. Sometimes it's a little too much for the subject matter that he's talking about. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. It reads well, it's written well, something very sobering about it as well as funny. I think just pointing out something that we've all been feeling for the last few years. And the other thing he really does point out is the media. The media is letting it the side down. Basically, it's at the same time as all this stuff is going on, where the media has decided to go into opinion pieces in a big way, or even ask questions or whatever that they say when they start spouting this extreme stuff too. And it's a bit of a time for reform. People don't trust the media a lot anymore, and that is a shame, because they are basically our gatekeepers to stop this type of thing from happening. And if they join the trend, what hope do we do? But like I said, it is some hopeful parts of this book. Now, I'm very impressed by Wallace in this book. I understand there's other books that are quite more humorous, even more so than this one. I'll be looking out for more of his work in the future. So that is Somebody Told Me by Danny Wallace, a kind of sobering look at our current zeitgeist, as the Germans will call it, time spirit, literally. I really enjoyed it. That's pretty much all I can say. So that is the review for today. I hope you have enjoyed what I've had to say. I'm very impressed by this book, basically, as you could probably tell. Now, what else is going on? Well, I have finished reading a couple of other books which are on the backlog. The first was The Private Eye, Volume 1 and 2. Now, this is a graphic novel, sort of cyberpunk, set in the future type thing. Now, it is very interesting. It's kind of got a lot to say about privacy and where we could be going with that type of thing. It posits a future where everyone has lost their privacy in some great event, and in the fallout of that, everyone's decided to mask their identities and so on. And there's societal structures around that, and of course people rebel against that and try to change the status quo. Now, that was a 2-part graphic novel. The other thing I finished reading is Deep Weird. I think I mentioned that in the last video. It's a collection of essays about supposedly deep weird things. A bit disappointing in that, because a lot of the deep weird stuff wasn't particularly deep weird. It was hoary old supernatural stuff which has been covered millions of times before, and the book seemed to get worse as it went on. And by the end of it, we were talking about the cultural practices of sorted tribes, and basically, I mean, nothing against that, but it just wasn't particularly weird like the book promised. So I'll have reviews of them coming soon, at least written ones of them. Since I've moved here, I've kind of lost the inspiration to put out a review for every single book I read. It's kind of, things are up in the air still with me. I may do a couple of short reviews. Went back into doing one of those because of the response I've got from the older ones. People seem to like them. I don't really, but they're a way of driving traffic basically. I probably shouldn't have admitted that, but anyway, so that was the review for today. It is the 18th of May 2024. We're into pretty much near winter. It's getting cold outside, it's getting cold inside. I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you next time.